24 hours, what are we going to talk about? Right? These are the things we're going to talk about with individuals because it came from the community, and we're drawing off that information of the community to be able to be a little bit more alert to what's going on. We all don't have the solutions to homelessness. If we did, we wouldn't have a job right now. So help the community, help us, right? That was our goal.
And it's important with some of these events that it's the CEO that is doing the face. For that event, you know, make sure you take a nap, but you're on that bench for 24 hours, interviewing people and mayors and city councilmen and all that, and even folks from your program to say, hey, listen, how has this affected you? But it's got to be the CEO because don't just say you have social media and say, hey, go run with it and do it. The CEO's got to be involved. If you're not, because you are the face to the community of what's going on at the mission.
Yeah, it is so true. So it leads us to Instagram. Obviously, we know when we post into Facebook in Meta Business, it'll push that Instagram. But some of the key things to focus on when you're doing good posts within Instagram is integrity, good quality photos, good lighting, strong focal points. The backgrounds need to not be distracting, all right? And so keep those as almost like, okay, when we're framing in these pictures, are we capturing some stuff that we feel people are going to be interested in? Not just snapping, yeah, you're out of the moment. Because the key is people are looking, they love content. If they're going to get tied into your Instagram, they want it to work with the style of their theme, right? Isn't that similar to what your generation is all about? Yes. Right? Let's see, tags. You want to definitely tag people or things that are in your Instagram. Important things that snap out there, you want to make sure you tag them. And then you're allowed to have up to 20 photos within an Instagram post. Typically, we see that 6 to 8 is where you should be. Overstimulation is already happening. So limit what you got there, curate it, come up with a nice collage, and make it work. Take a little bit of extra time ahead of it, it'll pay off in the end. LinkedIn. You guys all use LinkedIn? Probably not, but you should be. I'll tell you that right now. The community that surrounds you, they're tied into LinkedIn. It is more of a professional platform, but we've noticed when we put our sponsorships, registrations, informational things, and then also have the same event that you've boosted and posted on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn. The professional crowd will rally around it, especially if you have a good theme behind it. And guess what? We're all in the business of a good theme. So definitely create another event for it. Boosting is going to be very similar to Facebook. Don't just boost and throw a bunch of money at it. Be moderate, be minimal, reassess. You can always come back and add a little more to it if you want to broaden your radius of where you're trying to reach. But you want to start with less and see how it goes. And then whatever posts you think are going to last. So let's say you have an event that's coming up. You created an event. You want to be able to pin that to the top. What that does is it gives recognition to that the whole time people are scrolling through. On your post, on LinkedIn, you will be at the top of that. And it'll stay there for a while. So if you're leading up to an event, you have a month, post it at the top, keep getting that visibility to it. Any questions?
Do you have to have a premium account for LinkedIn, or?
No, you just have to be a member.
Okay.
You don't have to be the pro version.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just have to start an account. Yeah. Okay, X, or formerly known as Twitter. Typically, I like to use this. We use it some, not as much as we probably should, but it's an awareness piece, informational. You can push from every one of your other platforms into Twitter, into X. What's good about that is if you already have stuff developed, send it over there. You don't know if it's going to have traction. A lot of people on X, they're just they like to read stuff, right? So put your events on there and see if it works for you. It could be one of those platforms that drops off that you don't need. It's an unnecessary. But why not? Because if there's someone on there that's not in that normal realm of looking at your stuff and they see it and they want to get engaged, well, that could be a new donor.
If you link them together, it's not an extra step for you to do.
There you go. Yep. And it's very easy to share within the platform. So if you didn't add that, X in there at the beginning, you always have that share button. It'll drive it right to it. Any questions? This is kind of like, we have a Swing for Shelter coming up the end of May. We just put it in, and, it's just a little quick informative. You can put a picture, you can put a video in X now. You have that capability of doing that.
But I just want to say this too. You do cross-platform with multiple things. We also do billboards that look exactly like that.
Yep.
So this theme is going across the whole community about this event. There's a billboard, and then they see it on their social media, and then they start, and year after year, we use the same thing, so they know this event's coming.
Yep.
And you have to do it throughout the thing. There's got to be the major theme.
To Keith's point, cohesiveness, like I keep going back to, is critical. Your branding is critical. It's because your mind works that way. It's seen it once, it wants to see it again. This is an annual event, right? And year over year, we're building that group of individuals that are tied to this. So yes, you want to keep that branding consistent. Yeah.
Jonathan, you've been talking a lot about getting the content up there, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about how to, for posting every day, what's your creative process to think through knowing what to post? Do you have a calendar? What's your calendar look like if you have one? And even creating the assets themselves, sometimes that can be a real walker for.
It can be. It can be, and it does take time. You typically, Maggie and I will sit down and listen, I'm all about a production meeting. Once a week, you should be having a production meeting, and the conversation should be, what are we focusing on this week? What things are coming up in advance? What do we want to hit? Do we want to spend a lot of time on these specific things, or do we want to just blitz it and move on to the next thing? You have to have those conversations. You got to build out a little bit of it, and that's why I said that.
So do you build out 1 week in advance, 2 weeks?
We're typically just building out for the next week. I mean, that's because media is so ever-changing, and what we're doing, all of us, is ever-changing. You're getting a donor in that gives you a check that you didn't know you weren't going to get the week before. So now you're shifting and bumping and moving, and you have to stay nimble with everything.
But you have consistent ones that are going on too, like our events are being promoted in the background at all times.
That's
But
correct.
then a check comes in, that's over and above.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you have to add it to the total mix, to your point. We could have a lot of things already happening, and then we want to add more to it. That becomes fatigue. So you have to maintain, and that's why I say the meta suite is nice, because you can plan out, you can look at the schedule, and you can see the overlap of different things throughout that week. So you could say, okay, we already got 4 posts already on the boards here. One more, I think then we're good. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of feel-good things that we put out there, but there's also a lot of call to action. So
Yes.
we at least quarterly have a food drive or a canned good drive or shampoo or whatever we need at the mission to make sure we're getting in front of people to say, hey, listen, make sure you know we need canned goods right now, or we need to make sure we have soap and shampoo for our guys in the shelter.
Yeah, and that is the area where I was saying it's more informational. Those are great things to be able to rally around and get the community to see those things. Those are the posts that you want to say, okay, well, the food pantry is running a little low. If you need a barrel at your location, let's do it. Do a post on it, quick post. But those are the ones you can't schedule to, right? Those are the ones that we're kind of just working with whatever we're in the midst of. We got to keep a little bit of a buffer space within our communication that's already out there, so that we don't fatigue the end user. All right. Well, that was the social part and the social media part of what I was sharing. All right. Well, the key to a podcast is just another form of having communication, right? And that is really what we all yearn for, is to have communication relationship with individuals. What I'm going to share here is kind of our startup. We've been doing a podcast now for almost a year and a half. We have, I want to say, 16 or 17 episodes, maybe even more. Are we up in the 20s?
We're in season 2 now.
Yeah, season 2.
Yeah.
Season 2, but
Yes.
collectively, how many episodes do we have?
Season 2, we're on episode 3 now. And then
Okay.
past one,
Up
like
20, so 23
episodes.
episodes. So, what I'm going to share is what works for us. Obviously, there's all those, again, pathways that we can take to do media. But for us, we entered in and said, you know, Keith and I were talking, we had a newsletter already that was Mission to My Words. And in that newsletter, we would interview our program individuals that come through the program and allow them to share their testimony, right? Power's in the story. And we were like, how do we get this on a broader scope? How do we allow them to share their stories and affect others? Well, we came up with, so the first thing you want to do is you want to know it's storytelling and conversational, right? Come up with your theme. Land on a theme. In our case, it's Stories of Hope. And so we take individuals that are coming through our program and we allow them to share about where they were, where they are, where they're going to be, hopes and dreams. And we also have had podcasts with city officials, business owners, influential people within the town, giving us feedback. So you want to know what you're going to talk about, kind of like dwell on where you're going with the conversation. And you can either have it scripted ahead of time, maybe some of your questions to keep you on path. Keith's very good at not having a script in front of him. Sometimes you're not, you don't get that ability out of some people. They need to have it as bullet points just to kind of, so we don't rabbit trail down this wrong path. So the next step when you're getting into doing a podcast is you want to soundproof, you want to find your room. You definitely want to soundproof. So, invest in some sound panels. Make sure you don't have ambient noise that is going to overtake what you're recording. You got to start to lay out your equipment. So in our case, we went with laptop version because of flexibility and being able to record. You want to make sure that you have the right RAM or processor speed in it. Otherwise, you're going to have headaches. And you don't want headaches because all of this can be a headache in itself. You don't want to add any more. So make sure you get the right equipment. Even if you start cheaper, make sure you have enough to be able to get the task done. Does that make sense? Does anybody have a podcast already going? Okay. And we'll bounce ideas off because it's nice to be able to sharpen that way. You want to land on your sound, lighting, camera, software, controller. Start small, lean into it. We don't know what we don't know until we do, right? We have a small mixing board. It's completely capable of what we need to do because typically you have just the outfeed to your microphones coming in. The controller, if you guys aren't familiar with this, allows to have one user be able to pan cameras, feed in, feed out, change the volume of your mics, because you don't want to sit there and try to mess with your actual soundboard. You want to have it tied into a controller. That's typically what a network or a news station would use, but they have them smaller now, more achievable. Lighting. Go with LED, but have some built-in options. The Kelvin is very important. We don't want to seem like we're in a high school, right? We want to make it inviting. We want to have some kind of a warm lighting. You don't want to have too less of lighting. You want to have just enough. So you have to be able to have that flexibility built into your lighting package. And again, you can start small. These ones work very well. I can get any of the name brands that we use if you guys want to know any of that stuff, so that it helps you get a startup. Cameras, you definitely want to start 4K and then up. You might not post ever at 4K, but start with the resolution, right? And you can go down. If you don't have the resolution built in, you can't go back up. So you want to make sure you get the right resolution for your cameras. Let's see, what else?
How many cameras are you running?
We're running 3, so typically we'll start our sound, our session with a straight on, and we'll start panning as the conversation goes left to right. You can do Ken Burns, zoom in, zoom out. That gives a little interest to it. But I would say you don't need more than 3. You can go up to 3. You can definitely do it with 1. But it's nice to have that. It changes things up when you're using at least 3.
And if you've got somebody that's helping you with it, you could use a Pt2 camera and just do
Absolutely.
two, and then you just move that camera back.
Yep. So if you have a second person in the room, definitely. We've noticed that, our room's so small that it's like everybody in there, it's like, this room's starting to get too hot. So,
You
we-
can spend way too much money on
You can go
cameras,
down a
too.
rabbit
I mean,
trail,
you-
yeah.
You can, there's some really great cameras for.
These are Zooms? The brand Zoom.
Yeah,
They're-
Zoom's
for-
great.
yep.
OBSBot has
Yep.
got their little 4K cameras that are.
And it's a digital feed, and it's great. You keep your wires limited, things like that. We typically, so we started with OBS. That's a free software that you can do a lot of pre-production or even live with. QuickTime's been working out better for us. You can actually record your screen right within QuickTime, and because we're Apple-based when we're doing our stuff, if you're PC-based, then OBS probably going to work better for you. But QuickTime really works well for us. We don't go directly live. We go into post-production. We want to clean it up. We want to get a nice intro at the beginning, a nice exit at the end. So the next step for this process is you definitely want to test your production. I want to make sure I'm not running over time here. And you want to work out your issues, because you're going to have them. You're going to have issues. It's just part of what you're doing.
Your mic's humming.
Things are just going to go wrong, and have the attitude that we're going to figure it out. We're going to get to the end of this. We're going to polish this up. It's going to work. The first couple aren't going to look like the last, right? Yeah.
I listen to podcasts all the time, and there's podcasts out there that have massive audiences, but still have terrible production.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell, like, when you're driving along, and their guest, the volume of their guest is significantly quieter than they're talking, so you're
Yeah.
constantly turning the volume up and
Yeah.
down while you're driving.
And that's a good point. You want to level that out a little bit, because the end user, you don't know where they're at, right? They could be in their car, they could be somewhere else. And if they drop out and the conversation is like you're having coffee with someone, but you can't hear them,
Right.
you don't have the ability to lean
But
in.
his point is a good point, because I listen to Joe Rogan sometimes,
Mhm.
even Joe Rogan, who has a $100 million deal.
Yep.
Some of his guests, you still have to turn up to listen to his guests, even though he's got the best production out there.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just about getting your ideas
I will
out
tell
there,
you-
and people will listen.
Yeah, I will tell you, in that situation, I'm almost 100% sure that that's ego. It's ego.
Yeah.
The mic is louder for the host. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
But to that point, yeah, I feel like when we do our mic
So
check,
John's saying I've got a big ego.
no, we level you out there. We level you out there. No, Keith actually has a really good dynamic voice, so we actually have to turn him down sometimes, because he comes across really well in the mic. Yeah, so, exactly.
Quick question out of that content.
Yeah.
You want it to be authentic, you want it to be, right, but aren't you still driving, even if Pete's good on his toes?
Yep.
right, Aren't you have a point for being there. And you
So-
get your point across.
Absolutely.
So,
If you're driving to an ultimate point,
right,
you want to make sure that you have those bullet points that he ends up to, right?
okay.
And he'll know in advance. Like, if he's interviewing a program person, that's his territory. I don't need to tell Keith how to navigate that, right? But if he's with a city official, and that city official's just leaned into something that we're tied into, and we want that to end that way and have a perfect segue, make sure you put the bullet point in it so that you drive to it. Yeah. Yep.
And that's the advantage of doing it, of not running it live, but having some production of
Yep,
ability
'cause you
to
can
do as
splice
well.
it.
Sometimes you just need to move stuff.
Exactly.
That's just the way it works.
Splicing things, moving it around, dead time, because not everybody you're going to interview is going to have a quick response. You could have some that are like,
Especially residents.
and that's forever. In this realm, that's forever. If they pause, you don't want it there. You just want to shorten it up.
All right, dummy in the room. We've got a local, small family TV station and radio stations that have been trying to do this for a lot longer than podcasts.
Mhm.
Why? Why would you want to try to recreate what they're already doing? Why would you want to do this? And what is it you're trying to accomplish?
I'll
'Cause
tell
I
you.
walk in, they
Go ahead.
tell me 5 minutes beforehand, hey, we got Joe ready to go. I walk in, I'm able to get it done. I don't have to schedule a time to go to a TV
Yep.
station. I'm able to get these done. And if we want, in the future, we're gonna do a lot more of these. We could do these weekly or daily if we wanted to. If you're trying to schedule that out with a TV station, you're not gonna be able to do that. That's why we went with our own, so we could have.
Yeah,
that.
you could, it's more efficient time use, but for me, having it in-house, we're always going to be able to make this tighter to our brand. You know what I mean? At every aspect, you're going to be able to tailor this.
You have a listenership, you gotta create a listenership.
You got to create it.
Yeah.
You have to create it.
The
Yeah.
one thing that you can't do with radio is you can't tell how many people listen to your
Okay.
show. You can broadcast to everybody, but who's listening to radio anymore?
And
On TV.
And this you can.
But with this, you know exactly.
So I'm
How
about
long
to
they
get
were in,
there.
When they dipped in,
Yep.
when they dipped out, what was
Exactly.
the interesting stuff. You have the ability to be interactive with them. You can be social with them in your social
Mhm.
media. And that's worth the money right there. I mean, you can spend $1,000 on a radio ad and have nobody hear it, no matter how often, and you just don't know. With this, you know.
Brian, to your point, a great point. So once you create your production, right, and we're skipping ahead here because that's the next step is when you want to get this hosted and you want to get it out to the platforms that people are on, Apple, Spotify, Prime, all these guys, yeah, all of them, right? That's when you start to get those analytics that we're talking about. And that's the key, is to get it on RSS or whoever's going to host it for you
You're
and
not
push it.
doing this just to be, not just to be YouTube. This is for
Correct,
everything. Yeah,
correct.
we're trying to get it
SoundCloud, whatever.
Yep, SoundCloud, all those.
So just the other day, I tuned into Joyce Meyer, and they all have podcast microphones in front of them.
Mhm.
So she's doing a TV show and a podcast simultaneously.
All she's doing is doing two things at once.
Yep.
That's exactly what she's doing.
The other thing with us doing it in-house too is if they wanted to, if we had a great interview and the guy had some great things and some girls that had some, you can cut those down into your reels and
Yep.
put those out that way as well, so.
He's
that's
jumping
not
ahead.
gonna be used.
He's jumping ahead.
And then do it even further, have it transcribed, and now you got something to add to your newsletter.
And we've done that. So when we launched our podcast back when we started, we transposed the first episode.
Yep.
And we took all that and we put it into our newsletter and we said, hey, come see our new podcast. We want you to tune in. And it was literally Adam, right? And you were interviewing him and it was transposed on the fly and we put it into the newsletter and it was as if you're reading the conversation, but then at the end you could hit the link and you can go actually listen to it. So that's good. If you're going to launch this, you're going to get into it,
Yep.
give your audience an opportunity to get excited about it, just as excited as you guys are. Test it, work out the kinks. When you're doing your segments, if you're going up to about 45 minutes, I think that in my mind and most of the stuff that I've seen, that's the longest you should do as a part one. Then you should be able to, you have to upload another part to it.
But we've had great success at taking our testimonies and doing part one and part two.
That's correct. Yep, and break them down that way because typically after a half an hour or 45 minutes of listening, you're going to trail off. You're going to lose a little bit of interest. But if you stop it there, you'll still keep that person. They're going to want to come back for part two.
Somebody said to me the other day, the best thing for a podcast is to have it be a half an hour so somebody can be on the treadmill.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's typically why we say that. Yep. Half an hour is the way to
So
navigate
our
to.
number one response for the newsletter and the banquet is they want to get a testimony.
Okay.
They come out, they may not like to go out at all.
Yeah.
But they'll come out to hear the client's testimony and see that their money is invested. So I think you're trying to accomplish.
That's it, stories of hope. That's a testimony.
You want the testimony.
That's it, you want that. Listen, we all know the power's in the testimony, right? So let's give an opportunity for the community to hear those testimonies. I mean, that's what's so effective to us, right? It affects us, is those testimonies. Those are success stories, and maybe not success stories yet, but the community needs to hear them.
Your donors, you're telling your donors, we did this together. This is what you invested in, you're a part of this.
That's exactly
So
right.
You're helping accomplish this,
Yep.
and that's a pretty powerful way of helping them feel like they're partnering. with
They're
you.
integrated.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
It gives them an opportunity to be integrated. It gives us an opportunity to be transparent.
Yeah.
And that's the key. That's the key to
Now,
success.
As a donor, you're telling me I can pick this up and watch it or listen to it, how many ways?
As a donor, you can click the link, you can come into all the different platforms that,
On what?
How many platforms do we have, John?
So many
Probably
platforms.
10 or 15 platforms.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Podcast.
perfect example, Apple, Spotify, Pandora,
So now I can
iHeart.
click the link on my phone, on my email.
Yep.
So you would, for you as a user, you can probably go to their website and get it.
Correct.
And then most people listen to one podcast format, like I use Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
Other people use Spotify. So you want to get it into the podcast that the individuals are using.
Hey, I love how engaged you guys are, but you guys are stepping ahead. That's where I'm about to talk to you. So, post-production, okay? Perfect world, you're doing this live, it's out there. Oh, well, you messed up, it's live, right? But if you want to go into post-production, you want to scrub it up, clean it up, put an intro in it, come up with maybe an intro song, whatever you want to do. It's all in post-production, that's where it lives. We use Final Cut, iMovie, whatever works. You could have voiceovers at the beginning of your intro. You can do all that kind of stuff. Make sure you land on your theme music. You're ready to share it, but really you're not yet. A lot of the podcast syndicated platforms only want the audio. They don't want your video. But that doesn't mean throw away the video, okay? You're going to use it in your YouTube. You're going to use it on Reels. But you do have to strip it down to an audio version. And so you want to run it through an audio software like Logic or something like that. Strip out the audio. Make sure you don't lose quality. Don't compress it and end up losing all the clarity. Listen, podcasts, people are hearing the voice. Don't lose the quality of the voice. That's why you invested in the good mic. You want to make sure you keep it. And then you want to upload it to what we're talking about. RSS, SoundCloud. There's a bunch of them out there, but they're going to host it to all those other platforms for you. Yep. And so from there, you can take the podcast that has the video attached to it, and you can put it into YouTube. You can put it up in the smaller segments, you know, and have it on YouTube, live in there. You would definitely, from YouTube, you want to share it into all your platforms that we talked about, social media. You want to get it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, any of them. I would say we saw a big uptick when we embedded it. So RSS gives you the ability to be able to take that screen that it looks real nice and polished. It has all your episodes there. Gives you a little theme and caption with the picture. You can have that feed on your website. So we have a little section on our website you scroll down to, and it has all the updated, the latest podcasts that you're doing, and they can scroll right through on your homepage. It's worth it. It not only gives you the foot traffic to your website because they're staying on your homepage longer, and they're listening. So it's like that secret sauce that you want to get in, you know, having some of your meta tied in. Any questions here?